Today on D&D Academia, we discuss the small to large plants known as Myconids. These creatures can be found in the Monster Manual. Myconids are intelligent ambulatory fungi that live in the Underdark, seek enlightenment, and deplore violence. If approached peacefully, Myconids gladly provide shelter or allow safe passage through their colonies. The largest myconid in a colony is its sovereign, which presides over one or more social groups called circles. A circle consists of 20 or more myconids that work, live, and meld together. A meld is a form of communal meditation that allows myconids to transcend their dull, subterranean existence. The myconids' rapport spores bind the participants into a group consciousness. Hallucination spores then induce a shared dream that provides entertainment and social interactions. Myconids consider melding to be the purpose of their existence. They use it in the pursuit of higher consciousness, collective union, and spiritual apotheoses. Myconids also use their rapport spores to communicate telepathically with other sentient creatures. All myconids can use their rapport spores up to 3 times per day, in a 10-foot radius of spores that extends from the myconid. These spores can go around corners and affect only creatures with an intelligence of 2 or higher that aren't undead, constructs, or elementals. Affected creatures can communicate telepathically with one another while they are within 30 feet of each other. The effect lasts for 1 hour. When a myconid takes damage, all other myconids within 240 feet can sense its pain. While in sunlight, the myconid has disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. The myconid dies if it spends more than 1 hour in direct sunlight. Like other fungi, myconids reproduce by mundane sporing. They carefully control their spores' release to avoid overpopulation. There are only 3 types of myconids mentioned, but that doesn't mean you can't create your own subsect to make things interesting. First, there is the myconid sprout. It has a challenge rating of 0, armor class of 10, and 7 hit points. It also has a speed of 10 feet, dark vision of 120 feet, and a passive perception of 10. It has no known languages. If it comes to physical altercations, its action is with its fist. It is a melee weapon attack with a +1 to hit, with a reach of 5 feet on one target. If it hits, it does 1d4 -1 bludgeoning damage plus 1d4 poison damage. The second known subsect is the Myconid adult. These are medium plants with a challenge rating of a half, armor class of 12, and 22 hit points. They have a speed of 20 feet, dark vision of 120 feet, and a passive perception of 11. They also have no known languages. They also get a fist melee weapon attack as their action. They get a +2 to hit with a 5-foot reach on one target. If they hit, they do 2d4 bludgeoning damage plus 2d4 poison damage. Along with rapport spores, the myconid adult also gets pacifying spores, which it can also do 3 times per day. The myconid ejects spores at one creature it can see within 5 feet of it. The target must succeed on a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or be stunned for 1 minute. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. The last known subsect is the Myconid sovereign. This is a large plant with a challenge rating of 2, armor class of 13, and 60 hit points. It has a speed of 30 feet, dark vision of 120 feet, and a passive perception of 12. It also still has no known languages. The Myconid sovereign actually gets multi-attack for its actions. The myconid uses either its hallucination spores or its pacifying spores, then makes a fist attack. Now, with its fist attack, it is still a melee weapon attack, but with a +3 to hit, a reach of 5 feet on one target. And if it hits, it does 3d4 plus 1 bludgeoning damage, plus 3d4 poison damage. Now, along with rapport spores and pacifying spores, Myconid sovereigns also get animating spores, which is also 3 times per day. The Myconid targets one corpse of a humanoid or larger or smaller beast within 5 feet of it and releases spores at the corpse. In 24 hours, the corpse rises as a spore servant. The corpse stays animated for 1d4 plus 1 weeks, or until destroyed, and it can't be animated again in this way. The Myconid sovereign also gets hallucination spores. The Myconid ejects spores at one creature it can see within 5 feet of it. The target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw, or be poisoned for 1 minute. The poisoned target is incapacitated while it hallucinates. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. There is another creature related to Myconids, called the Spore Servant. A Spore Servant is any large or smaller creature brought back to life by the animating spores of a Myconid sovereign. This can make for a very interesting situation if one of your fellow players goes down near Myconids. A creature that was never flesh and blood to begin with, such as a construct, elemental, ooze, plant, or undead, can't be turned into a spore servant. The following characteristics change or are added to a creature that becomes a spore servant. The servant retains its armor class, hit points, hit dice, strength, dexterity, constitution, vulnerabilities, resistances, and immunities. The servant loses its original saving throw and skill bonuses, special senses, and special traits. It loses any action that isn't multi-attack, or a melee weapon attack that deals bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. If it has an action or a melee weapon attack that deals some other type of damage, it loses the ability to deal damage of that type, unless the damage comes from a piece of equipment, such as a magic item. The servant's type is considered plant. Speed is reduced for all servants by 10 feet to a minimum of 5 feet. The servant's ability score changes as follows: Intelligence 2, Wisdom 6, Charisma 1. The servant has blind sight with a radius of 30 feet, and it is blind beyond this radius. The servant can't be blinded, charmed, frightened, or paralyzed. The servant loses all known languages, but it responds to orders given to it by Myconids using rapport spores. The servant gives highest priority to orders received from the most powerful Myconid. If the servant has no other means of dealing damage, it can use its fists or limbs to make unarmed strikes. On a hit, an unarmed strike deals bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus the servant's strength modifier, or if the servant is large, 2d4 plus its strength modifier. If you have plans to use Myconids in a more horrific or adversarial sense, I recommend checking out the television series The Last of Us. They show very interesting ways that spore servants and Myconids could be used. This has been D&D Academia's episode all about the plant species known as Myconids. If you enjoyed this, please check out our other episodes. And if there is anything you'd like to see get an Academia episode, mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.